Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Jana Talk podcast. I'm truly happy to see you here today because we will speak about a very important topic which affects every one of us, and this is how to set up boundaries correctly. Because have you ever felt guilty to say no, even you knew that yes is the correct answer? It happens to every one of us, I believe so. Have you ever stayed silent to keep the peace? And have you ever wondered why setting boundaries is so hard but yet so important? Today we will speak about what are boundaries, why setting the boundaries is so important, how childhood patterns influences us up to the adulthood, and also how to deal with manipulative people. Because when you have a manipulator in front of you and you need to talk with her or him, it's a little bit difficult because there are different ways of communication. So all these topics and much more we will include today in today's episode. And my today's guest is a leadership and transformation coach with more than 25 years of experience in HR. She has worked and lived in 4 countries. She has worked for 9 international companies where she gained amazing experience in leadership and also how to work in a high pressure environments. She's founder of Inphinite Edge, a platform which focuses on unlimited growth and unlocking human potential. She's helping leaders and also especially women to reclaim voice, align with their truth, and live with confidence and presence. And she helps all those leaders for more than 6 years. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome my today's guest, Lilian Díaz Gomez. Hello, Lilian. Welcome to Yana Talk podcast.
Hi. Thank you so much, Jana, for having me. I'm very excited to have this conversation and confidently make an impact, a positive impact in all of your listeners.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Dealing with complicated people, manipulative people, and also setting up boundaries is really important. What do you think? What are the boundaries? Why should we set them up at the beginning? If we can start with this topic.
Sure. So the first thing I want to say is that I didn't learn about boundaries so that I could talk about them. I learned about boundaries because I needed them. I did not grow up with them, and they not having them was costing me my health, my emotional well-being, and just draining my energy.
Mhm.
So boundaries are important because we are the container of our own personal power. And when we don't have those boundaries, we are leaking that power. We are leaking that energy. So boundaries, very simply put, they're just limits.
Mhm.
Limits that state where I end and where you begin. What is okay for me in my interaction with you, and what is not okay for me during those interactions. Yes. And there are
Absolutely.
different types of boundaries. There are
Uh-huh.
different types of boundaries. There are emotional boundaries, physical boundaries,
Mhm.
energetic or time boundaries. There are material boundaries, like
Mm.
what things you can borrow from me and what things you can't. So we can go deep later into that. But yes, there are different types of
Mm.
boundaries.
Actually, this is interesting, Lelaine, because I thought that when we say boundaries, it's about like it's only like one type of boundary. I didn't really think and realize that there are like so many types of boundaries.
Yes, because we are multidimensional beings.
Mhm.
So we are emotional beings, we're psychological beings, we are physical beings, we have a body. So for some of those dimensions, we need to set boundaries appropriately.
Mhm.
Yes.
Can we say that some of the type is more important than the other one, or all of them are equal because we need them all?
Well, it will depend on personal preferences.
Okay.
However, from my experience working with people, I think at some level, all types of boundaries are important.
Okay.
There, as I said, it depends on personal preferences. Some people may not be like too stuck on material boundaries, but I think they're healthy. For me, boundaries are healthy. So let's start with
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, why do you think so many people struggle with setting up boundaries?
Because what I've seen from working with people in so many countries, is that we all come from socially and culturally and family driven behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And many of us did not grow up with boundaries. We don't know what they are, you know, or we were taught that they were bad, that boundaries were walls. So they were things to be avoided. But actually, boundaries are very healthy, but we struggle with them because we have no reference of what a healthy boundary is.
Okay. What does actually mean a healthy boundary to you? What do you understand behind it?
For me, a healthy boundary and for me, boundaries are all healthy. So I'll
Mhm.
say that up front. A healthy boundary is where I know because I have the clarity of why that boundary is important for me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the sake of establishing a boundary, which is a limit for establishing it. I establish it because it's important to me. It matters to me.
Mm-hmm.
So they're healthy because they allow you to self-regulate and
Mm-hmm.
to protect your vital energy and your psychological and emotional well-being. And it also deepens the connection between other people.
Mm-hmm.
Because when there are no boundaries, you can't really talk about a true connection. There's usually a non-healthy dynamic going on, whether it's codependency or control. So that's for me why boundaries are healthy.
Okay, perfect. When someone realizes that he or she has a problem with setting up his or her boundaries, what should the person do then? And it doesn't matter if it's work related or personal related matter.
Yes, yes. For instance, one of the boundaries is let's start with simple ones. There's nothing like really simple, but let's start with your time and your energy. So
Okay.
you've been a person. I was a person who was always available for people. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I was taught that I had to be nice.
Mm-hmm.
And being nice meant being available for people. So people would call and say, hey, I need you to do this and blah, blah, blah. Let's this weekend, or I need you to come and pick me up and take this there and go there. And I was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, I have all these plans, and in my mind, I'm like, but on Saturday, I was going to go and, I don't know, go to the gym and I was going to do my grocery shopping or I was going to do my laundry or I wanted to hang out with my boyfriend. And now my mom is just telling me that she has this whole agenda planned out for my time. And I didn't know I could say no
Mm-hmm.
because as a child, every time I said no, there would be consequences.
Oh, yeah.
I would get punished. I would get the silent treatment. When I was little, it was punishment. So I learned that you couldn't say no.
Mm-hmm.
I had to please. I had to override my own um, needs to satisfy the needs of others. So for me, that was a big, big leap in learning how to say no, especially to my mother,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm from Venezuela, I'm Latin America, and for us, mothers are like God.
Mm-hmm.
There's your mom and there's God, like right there. So just learning to say no, it was so hard because as a child, you want to be loved, you want to belong, you want to be included. So most of the times we ignore our boundaries because we get the punishment. Or on the other hand, the other side is you can be rewarded
Mm-hmm.
for not having boundaries. So like if you're a people pleaser, oh, there's my nice girl. Oh, I
Really?
was the good girl. So I was the good girl. And I was like, oh, every time I got that reward, oh, there's my mature little one because we're a pack of 3 siblings. And I was the one who didn't give any trouble. Why? Because I had no boundaries. So of course I was the good one. My brother and my sister, they had boundaries, you know, and they get punished for it. But didn't like punishment and I wanted
And
the
you were,
reward.
sorry to bump in, you were the youngest one or you were the oldest one?
I am the middle child.
Ah, the middle child. Okay, okay. I thought that you were the
Yeah.
youngest one. Uh-huh, okay. Mm-hmm.
No, I'm the filling in the sandwich.
No.
Yes.
Filling in the sandwich. But you mentioned really great
Yes.
things. I'm always taking notes. So, but really
Of course.
to play the good girl or the good boy, I think many of us know it, including definitely me. and to be always available. And also I felt I wrote being and or feeling loved, because I think it's maybe also from the necessity or unfeeling necessity of people why this is that to have the feeling of being loved even without realizing.
Yes.
I think it somehow
Yes.
connects. And pleasing others is also it is connected with the good girl or good boy position. So
Yes.
how did you step up from being a good girl and pleasing everyone and being available to be as you are now today?
So it's been a kind of a roller coaster. One thing I learned at a very young age was that if I wanted to belong, I had to play along, right? And playing along meant that I had to put myself on the back burner and not prioritize.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, Jana, your body, because, I learned also to suppress emotions.
Uh-huh.
So, good girls don't cry, good girls don't get angry, good girls don't push back, good girls, they follow, follow, follow. So when at some point from suppressing or repressing those emotions for such a long time, my body started acting. I started to get sick. I
Mm-hmm.
had digestive problems. So definitely it was when I turned 18 that I started pushing back. And I got a lot of silent treatment for that. But I was older and, I was in college and I had a job. So I was like, I felt more empowered, like I was standing more in my power. But I did have to live with a silent treatment for a long time, which is hard to have your parents not talk to you because you don't want to please them, right? Or you're not doing the things that please them. So I stood my ground for a couple of years, but then eventually I went back because that inner child, that wounded little girl, she wanted to be loved and she wanted to belong and she wanted to have a relationship with her parents. So I gave away my power and I started to override those boundaries. And that happened for like 10 or 15 years
Mm-hmm.
until I became a mother. So I was in my 30s. I became a mother, and I was more independent. So now I had, my career. I was completely financially independent, and I started to unconsciously look for peace. It's like I don't even want to be happy. I just want to feel that I'm calm because my nervous system was very dysregulated. So I lived like in chronic stress all of the time. And
Mm-hmm.
I said, I don't want this. I don't know what I want. I don't know what's the opposite of chronic stress.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's not happiness, but it's peace.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be calm. So that's when I started standing my ground. And yes, I did get the silent treatment. And yes, I lost some relationships along the way. To this day, my mom passed, but I put some hard lines with her, which was very difficult. And with my dad, I've actually not spoken to him in 5 years because he didn't like me staying in my power and enforcing those boundaries. So my dad's a very controlling person,
Mm-hmm.
very narcissistic. He doesn't mean to do bad, but that's the person that he learned to be
Yeah.
based on his own upbringing and social conditioning.
That's the thing that our parents do the best thing what they
Best.
know, because what they learned from their parents. And probably their parents were much crueler than or much more cruel than our parents,
Yes.
and their parents much more, because there was not much love. You mentioned or you mentioned also chronic stress, which I see very often everywhere actually, across the
Yes.
different job positions and works. Are there some boundaries or some problems which you see among people who you work with similar, that there are like some patterns?
Yes, definitely, Yana. So the thing is, our stress is our body's response to danger.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now we know that there's good stress and there's bad stress. Bad stress. So the good stress is like, and this comes from our ancestors, 2 million years ago. So, when the mammoth or the snake came to bite me or attack me, I would run. So that generated a stress response. There's a lot of cortisol and adrenaline flooding your body, and that makes you actually, be more acute, be more focused, be even more strong. There's more strength, and that's the good stress. The bad stress is when those chemicals stay in your body when you no longer need them, which is what is happening right now. So right now we're not exposed to those type of dangers, but our bodies have the same physical reaction.
Yeah.
So in organizations or in families, people who don't have a strong sense of self, who did not learn how to set boundaries, and who are dealing with controlling, overbearing, manipulative, narcissistic personalities, their brain is receiving the signal that, their survival is at stake. So the first thing, and this is hard to teach in organizations, and that's why I'm diversifying or balancing out what I teach in corporate world to individuals who work in companies, but companies don't want people to learn about this, not because there's a negative intention behind. It's just that there are so many things to learn to be an effective leader that these things seem secondary, but actually they should be at the forefront. So learning to manage your emotions, learning about boundaries, learning about who you are and who you have been that is showing up in that company. Because when I have a narcissistic leader or an overbearing micromanager, that person is acting out of fear. So we have
the leader
to teach.
who has the leader, the narcissistic leader or manipulator.
Of course.
Okay.
Yes. Because we are the same person in our jobs most of the times than the person we are outside of our jobs.
Yeah.
So we need to learn how to set boundaries, which is, as I said, emotional boundaries, physical boundaries, psychological boundaries or mental boundaries, your time and your energy, and also material are the types of boundaries. So emotional boundaries, I get a lot of, and I work a lot with the American continent. So I teach leaders from the United States down to Argentina and Chile. And there's a lot of my boss yelled at me, my boss was disrespectful, or was emotionally attacking me. And I'm like, okay, what are you going to do with that? Because we can stand in a point of being the victim that we were as a child, and that is true. As a child, we were told things, and we were either punished or rewarded. And most of the times that was completely out of our control.
Yeah.
We were kids. We needed our parents. It's not like, okay, I'm leaving. No, we had to stay there. But now we are adults. So how do you stand in your own power? And that's why boundaries are so important for me, because I'm a container and the boundaries protect the energy and the power in my container. So I'm like, okay, what are you going to do? When are you going to have a conversation with your boss or with your spouse or with your mother or with your child? Because we have to start choosing ourselves. We have to draw the line before our body draws it for us. In my case, my body drew it for me. I went into burnout. So I was emotionally drained, physically very, very sick, and just like lifeless. But before you get to that point, right now, you are gaining some clarity. So what are you going to do now? What are you going to choose to do now to protect yourself? Right? Like your boss, you're on vacation and people continue to contact you and just connect really quickly or read my email. I'm on vacation. But of course, in order to do that, we have to have conversations and we have to prepare. As a leader, whenever I was going on vacation, I would have someone in my team be the acting leader, the acting me. And I would set the guidelines and, establish some agreements so that I could enjoy the time with my family and with myself.
Perfect,
Right?
perfect. And regarding her vacation, actually, this is quite a common thing that I know about many people who go to vacation and they still work and they don't set up really boundaries that they are on a vacation and they should be not working and they should be really enjoying themselves and their, I don't know, friends or family members and or themselves. So absolutely, yeah, this is
Yes.
really common thing.
Yes, it is. And the other thing is, with diversity and inclusion. So there's still this paradigm that my opinion or my version of the world is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not the truth. It's my truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's that vision of the reality that I see through my own filters.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I know you have it's a boundary, right? You're entitled to your opinion. We're all entitled to our opinions. You're entitled to your thoughts and to your feelings and to your values and your beliefs. And I am the same.
Exactly.
So we have to, again, just not engage into conflict because someone thinks differently than I do or has a different perspective. I may even learn from that. So I practice the 4 agreements a lot. I don't know if you know about the book, The 4
Yes.
Agreements.
Brilliant. Yeah, we have it here too. Yeah.
Yes, awesome. So I practice the 4 agreements a lot, a
Mhm.
lot. Because again, I learned that when people didn't agree with me, I was in trouble. I was in danger.
Mhm.
Either I did not get that external validation because I didn't know how to validate myself. So I needed the external validation. But when I bumped into the 4 agreements, it was like, oh my God, why didn't I have this book when I was 12? Right? But again, it's, don't take things personally. Don't assume things. People are going through a lot. That's also things that I'm able to see, to witness in organizations, but also in my personal coaching practice, is that people are going through so much. They're struggling with so many things that I think kindness and compassion and empathy are very much needed today, just as much as boundaries, but we need also to understand where people are coming from.
I think kindness and compassion are one of the very important parts of a strong leader. To understand also deeply his or her team members and also listening what the
Yes.
person's the team member says one person, right? So it's important. You mentioned really
Yes.
the book 4 agreements and really great things. So how to start setting up the boundaries actually? Are there any tips from your side or rules what we should do to set up healthy boundaries?
Yes. So if first I want to give a little more examples of,
Sure.
when someone is violating our boundaries, or maybe we are the ones who are violating other people's boundaries. So in emotional, dismissing other people's emotions, or don't feel like that, you're overreacting.
Oh,
That's one thing. Or rejecting. I don't accept your frustration. You cannot, rejecting or assuming that how people are feeling. I mean, we can be in the same situation and your emotional world is going to be different than mine. So don't assume that, even though you went through the same thing, I don't know, in my case, my mother's passing,
mhm,
the 3 of us have completely different emotional responses and reactions
mhm,
to her passing. So don't assume that we know other people's emotions. Or if you find yourself justifying what you want,
mhm.
so explaining and over explaining, that's usually because someone rejected, dismissed, or assumed what emotions were okay for you and what emotions were not. There's also people who do a lot of, again, all of these behaviors are usually unconscious. You don't know you're doing them,
Absolutely.
right? So we're not here to judge. We're here to learn. You're emotionally dumping on other people.
Mhm.
So you feel stressed or you feel tired or fatigued or just, like the world overwhelmed, and you come and you start dumping your emotions on people. And that is a boundary of time or energy for other people. Like you don't know if I'm available to have this conversation. So emotional dumping is another one. And also inappropriate questions or oversharing. So as I said, boundaries are about personal preferences. Some people like to share, some people don't like to share.
Absolutely.
Some people are very guarded and protected. So if you have someone who's always asking you questions that don't make you feel good, that feel uncomfortable, then there's a boundary that needs to be set. Also with your time and your energy. So I said people having the expectations that you're always going to be there, or people, this is my case. I tend to not be on time, and it's a very bad habit that I've been working on for a long time. I'm much better at it now, but I used to think that being late was okay. Because, hey, we're Latin Americans and, time is just a thing. No, it's not okay. For some people, this is like a hard line. We said 9:30.
Yeah.
So you have to show up at 9:30, right?
Or earlier.
Or earlier, right? Don't be on time, be early, right? Yes. Or people who expected, like my mom, that during the weekend, she had this whole agenda for me. Like, oh, and you're going to drive and you're going to pick up and you're going to take. It's like, hey, hello? No. Or people who, let's say you have a skill. You're very good with like being a handyman. Oh, my faucet broke. So this weekend, please come and fix it or fix it. You're like, no, free labor should be done on my terms, not on your terms, right? Material, possessions, again, living in when you have many siblings, there are things that are for common use, but there are things that are private. So my sister used to wear my clothes. And my mom used to let her wear my clothes. She'd say like, oh, don't worry, your sister just bought all of these things, but it's okay. You can put them on. And I was like, come on, I haven't even taken the tag out of them yet, right? So again, you're entitled to have that. I'm battling with perfectionism. So I'm a perfectionist in recovery. And I used to make my bed like it was going to be on the portrait of a magazine. And I hated when people just, would go and just drop themselves on my bed. I'd be like, no, it's okay. You're right. So material boundaries and physical. We are very touchy people. Latins, or especially Venezuelans, we're very touchy people, but some people don't like to be touched. So the proximity, the touch, even when you're in a relationship, public demonstrations of affection, some people are not okay with that. And it's okay for you to say, hey, I'm a more private person. You don't need to explain. You just need to set the boundary. So remember that we provoke everything that we allow. So if I have a boundary and I don't enforce it, and first communicate it, right? So I'll communicate it. Hey, I don't like you to drop yourself on my bed because my bed is my sacred place where I go to rest, blah, 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 whatever. You don't even need to explain. But if it's a relationship that is meaningful to you, like my son, when he was a kid, he didn't know. So I would make my perfect bed and he would go in there and jump on it. I would be like, what are you doing? And then, I'd be like, okay, he's a kid. He doesn't know. Let me explain, right? So how do you set them? First, you need to establish or create them for yourself. So what are my emotional boundaries? What if someone dismisses my emotional response? Does it bother me? It's and that is a lot in the body. It's not so much in the mind. First you feel it, with physical energy, whatever. You feel what you need to do. And that comes from clarity. And once you know your why, which is the clarity, then you have to state it. What is good, what is allowed, and what is not. Dropping yourself on my bed is not allowed. I don't need to explain it. It's not allowed. Okay. Borrowing my things without my permission is not allowed. Emotional dumping on me is not allowed. Expecting free labor from me is not allowed. Right? So you state it and then you communicate it to the, I'm
Oh,
going to
yeah.
call this offenders, right? Which is the hard part, because right to this point, you're negotiating with yourself. You're like, yeah, it's not okay that she took my whatever, my car without telling me, And then not only did my sister borrow my car, but she returned it with no gas and dirty, That's not okay.
Uh-huh.
Then you have to go back and communicate it.
Absolutely. Because
And
the other person,
yes,
mostly doesn't know that they have crossed, well, mostly, sometimes yes, like
yes,
manipulative or aggressive people, I believe, yes, they do know. But the normal
yes,
people, they are not aware that they have crossed some boundaries if we do not communicate it to them. So, absolutely.
exactly, exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. We have to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
That and I hold my heart to that. Most of the times people do not know.
Uh-huh.
But in the story that we have in our mind, it's like, but they should know. I mean, isn't this logical? Doesn't everybody feel like this or think this way? No,
It's not yet.
not everybody feels like that or thinks like that, right? Yes.
Absolutely.
So your truth is not everybody's truth. Yes. So stating the boundary and communicating it. If you are in a relationship with, as you said, as you mentioned, manipulative people,
Mm-hmm.
controlling people, overbearing, narcissistic. Again, I learned about this because I needed to learn it. I'm not a psychotherapist or psychologist, but expect pushback. Expect it. There's going to be defensiveness. But why? I mean, you have all the free time in the world. You have a perfectly running car. My mom, right? So I don't understand. Why can't you do it? Because I don't want to. Because I have other plans. But your grandma needs this. Well, then grandma can wait until then you start to negotiate if you want to. If you don't want to, you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
But in my case, I loved my mom and I loved my grandma.
Of course. Yeah, yeah.
So I said, well, Granny can wait until Sunday, or I'll do this Friday afternoon, or I'll have my husband pick it up and take her. It doesn't have to be me if I can solve the situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to stand your ground. So maintaining that boundary, bless you,
I don't know.
once you create it, bless you, once you create it,
Mm-hmm.
you state it like this is the boundary. And you communicate it, then you have to maintain it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the hard part because you're going to get defensiveness, pushback, people calling you things. You're so selfish. I can't believe you're doing this after everything I've done for you. Why do you have to be so difficult? Why can't you just say yes? And you have to expect that.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's why clarity is so important. If you know in your heart, in your mind, in your body, in your soul, that is important for you, you have to choose yourself. Otherwise, you're going to regret it because relationships without boundaries, they will lead to resentment.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you love that person deeply, they will lead to resentment.
Absolutely. I can imagine in relationships when husband and wife are together, but I don't know, the wife or the husband are crossing the other person's boundaries. They are more in a victim based or victim, I don't know how to call it,
Yes.
victim role, even
Mode.
without realizing. But victim role
Yes.
is not enough to the relationship, so the relationship couldn't be healthy. So absolutely. And when you were speaking
Exactly.
about your children, kids are great teachers, right? Regarding setting up the
Yes.
boundaries, I would say. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. My son has been my greatest teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I've had great teachers. My mom was a great teacher. My dad is a great teacher. My ex-husbands have been great teachers. All of my bosses are managers, but my son has definitely been the greatest. And not only because it was such an important wish that I had to become a mother, but also because my son is autistic.
Mm.
So having a person whose brain is wired so differently than my brain, And also he's a centennial. So I'm Gen X and he's a centennial. So 2 generations after, it's like his view of the world is completely opposite to mine. So yes, he has taught me a lot.
I think so. Well, and what I would have observed by my friends who have kids, the children are really amazing teachers. And also what I observe also in my life, but also in my friends' lives and people who I know, that it's kind of when the lessons which we still need to learn, it repeats itself in a different form, in a different teachers, bosses, husbands, I don't know, whoever, friends, like that. It continues to it repeats until we really finally learn the lesson, and it doesn't need to be repeated as you learned it properly.
Yeah, sometimes we stumble into the same rock
Yeah.
9 times. It's like I had 9 corporate jobs, and all of my managers or my bosses were like my dad.
Oh, Jesus.
So, I had a high tolerance for narcissistic, overbearing, controlling people because my dad is like that.
Yeah.
But the lesson wasn't that I can deal with that. The lesson was I don't have to deal with that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have to tolerate it. So, yes, it took me a
I
long time, but I finally got it. I finally identified the lesson.
I
Yes.
had also repeating lessons. I don't think because of my, well, yes, well, it was different in my childhood, but I had also repeating lessons with manipulative people. And now I have been cooperating
Yes.
2 years with a really strong manipulator from distance, because I'm leading a big international project for the Czech country and Slovakia. And actually, the only person responsible and for both markets and doing everything. So not only thinking about what will be communicated where, but also implementing distribution, training, so PR, marketing, so all activities by one person, by me. And dealing with, I knew that there are patterns I already found out in the past who are manipulators. You can observe it, you know it. But I think my value was my lesson was to stand for myself and to
Exactly.
understand my values. And especially also what you mentioned, to not that I don't need to cooperate or be in touch with those people anymore as well. It's my free choice. So
Yes,
practicing.
definitely. Clarity does not require justification, and other people's reaction to your clarity, to your information, is just information for yourself, but it's not a reason for you to abandon yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you're practicing on saying no,
Mm-hmm.
and no is a full sentence. If you want to be more politically correct, you can say no, thank you. But no is just a full sentence. You don't have to justify. Your clarity does not require justification. The thing is that when boundaries are weak, we usually don't tend to see that other people's defensiveness or reactions make us doubt ourselves, right? We don't recognize those red flags. We tend to normalize them. So when you have that clarity that comes from awareness, and for me, awareness came through the body. It's like saying, okay, so now I'm feeling a little bit of angst because I'm going to say no. And I know this person is not expecting the no because I've always said yes.
Mm-hmm.
But, now I'm standing in my own power. I'm protecting my container and I'm going to say no. And sometimes I invite people to practice them. So if we're in coaching sessions or if we're in trainings, we'll do the role playing. So role playing, you saying no. Role playing, you establishing a new agreement. Role play, you negotiating different terms. Because we have to, if we don't practice it, it feels unfamiliar. And when it's unfamiliar, our brain says that's dangerous. Don't go there. So we have to learn to regulate our nervous system so that we can practice saying no without feeling guilty, without feeling shame, without judging yourself, or without letting other people's judgment of your new behavior get to you.
That's a brilliant thing, Lilian, really what you have mentioned, because those who still need to learn no without feeling guilty, but this is also very often,
Yes.
especially in families, I see it. If I have some friends who are 56 or years old or something like this, and they still feel guilty regarding saying no to their parents
Yes.
or father and mom. And it's so common. It's so common, even though you are like almost 60 years old. So the
Yes.
training and role playing to feel really okay that I'm saying no and I don't feel guilty. I feel okay, and that's the right decision is really perfect.
Yes. Yes. Because especially guilt, guilt is an emotion that is learned and it's rooted in our core. So again, I'm from Latin America, and Latin Americans mothers, I don't know if I've been learning that guilt is used by like people from India. So guilt is like pretty world owned, but guilt is very hard because guilt goes emotionally to the core that you are not a good person.
Mm-hmm.
And of course we want to feel, because we are, that we're good people. We're good humans and we're worthy of love,
Mm-hmm.
and we are enough because our imperfection is perfection.
Yeah.
So yes, of course we can improve. We can get better at things, but we are already whole as we are. We don't need to prove anything.
Yeah. We are not
But
robots.
yes,
We are human beings.
exactly. Exactly.
When you mentioned
Yes.
communication, what do you think about how to communicate the boundaries properly? Because the way we communicate our boundaries is truly, from my point of view, very important. If we say it in an aggressive way, or if we say it calmly, present, openly, are there any tips about the communication, how to communicate the other person the boundaries?
Yes. So I've learned, I didn't do that. I always used to go into crucial conversations with no preparation.
Uh-huh.
And I learned that that is not the best way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're going to have, you can call it a difficult conversation, a crucial conversation, a strategic, whatever you want to name it, conversations that matter need to be prepared. And
Mm-hmm.
you need to be prepared to have it. So if, I'm stressed or I'm angry and I just come from 2 hours in traffic and I want to set a boundary with my son, that's probably not the best moment to do it
Mm-hmm.
because I'm dysregulated, I'm out of myself, I'm not centered, and my ideas are not ordered. So first you have to prepare for them. And now, before we used to do, in our trainings, we used to do role playing, a lot of role playing. You can have your sister or your best friend or your spouse, someone who knows what the typical reactions may be to help you. Now you can even do with AI, you can even do
Oh
mock
yeah.
conversations, with your favorite generative AI. So going into a crucial conversation without preparation is a no-go. You
Mm-hmm.
have to prepare for it.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
And have to prepare not only what you want to say
Mm-hmm.
and how you're going to say it, but you have to prepare yourself to what's going to come, to
Mm-hmm.
the feedback you're going to receive.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, remember that people are entitled to their opinion. They're entitled to their reaction. It's not about you. It's about them. So let them, you know, um, call you names. Say you're a bad son or a bad daughter, or a bad wife or a bad mom. It's okay. It's about their experience and their own learning journey. It's not about yours. You are taking care of yours. You are owning your experience and your journey and your learning.
Mm-hmm.
You have to let them own theirs. And sometimes um, you're going to lose relationships. I've lost relationships with my boundaries. But it's okay because for Lilian,
Mm-hmm.
I rather lose relationships that were not based on respect
Mm-hmm.
than losing myself again to maintain those relationships.
Absolutely.
So for instance, if you're establishing a boundary with someone you really care and you're in a close, ongoing relationship, just validate their emotions. So first, let's say that you have a friend who does a lot of emotional dumping on you. So this happened with my son. My son does a lot of emotional dumping. He's learning to manage his emotions, but now he's learned that managing his emotions is talking about them and dumping them on me. So I'm like, and I was in the middle of something. So I said, okay, honey, I'm busy right now. Is there someone else that you can talk this with? No, there's no one because, okay, he was very, very high. So I said, okay, good. So as I said, I'm busy, but I'm going to take a few minutes. Okay, I don't have 3 hours for you to dump what you're feeling. So I have a few minutes. I'm going to take them to listen to you. But I would advise you to journal. So write this down, write, what is causing this, whatever. And then I have to notice if he's paying attention or he's just in his head, because if he's not paying attention or the person is not paying attention, you're wasting your time and your energy. So again, we have to learn to hold space and tolerate silence. A lot of people are not good at that, at, waiting for the other person to check in to what you're saying. So learning to hold space, to hold silence is key. Validate their feelings. Don't dismiss, don't assume that like, I really understand why you're like my son, honey, I really understand why you're frustrated and why this feels overwhelming and why you have all these thoughts. And I know that you can solve this. I know that you have it in you. I know that you have the capacity. So give them trust, give them something to look forward to, even if they don't believe it. Just because we already have that connection, just, him knowing that I truly believe in him and that he can count on me, but mostly it's up to him because he's the one who can fix it or solve it or do it, then, that's going to help. And then say, yes. And then say, honey, in my case, honey, next time I tell you I'm busy, unless you're like in the hospital or in an ambulance, like, respect that, please. Or ask me, hey, Mom, can you talk? If this is, again, it can be your sister, it can be a friend, it can be your mom. I would really like you to ask me if I'm available for this conversation.
Lilian, this is perfect. I really loved how you handled the situation with your son, because I think this happened in families and they probably don't know how to handle this. And I really loved how you mentioned that I believe in you, that you support him, that you said that I believe that you will, that you can solve it. I believe that you can solve it. You mentioned something like this. And then when the
Yes.
situation was solved and the situation was calmed down, that you mentioned the next cases for the future that he should ask, but you said it really brilliantly. And then unless it is emergency, let's please respect that I'm busy. I cannot talk immediately. Then
Engage. Yes.
yeah, perfect. So
Yes.
are there, when you imagine situation at work, that you have a complicated person in the work environment? You mentioned your experience with bosses. So for example,
Yes.
let's imagine a complicated boss. Um, and when you know that he or she is aggressive, manipulator, and really difficult to talk to, how would you recommend to set up the clear communication and like the boundaries? Are there any principles or tips?
Yes. The first principle is to understand that we feel fear. When we don't know anything about boundaries and we start learning about them, we are going to become fearful of establishing them, because that's going to change the patterns in our relationships. It's going to change our relationship with ourselves, but it's also going to change the patterns with our external relationships. So you're going to experiment fear, and fear in itself, fear of what? Fear of rejection, fear of being judged, fear of losing my job. If I tell my boss this, she can get very angry, or he can get very angry, and he can just fire me, right? So, yes, we're going to experiment fear. So in many cases, when I'm teaching about this, I'm going to say, what is bigger, your fear
Mm-hmm.
of these things or your need to gain some self-respect and protect yourself and prioritize yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And if you choose your fear, because I can understand it, these are complex times for some people who don't want to lose their jobs, then at least you know that you consciously made the decision to continue to tolerate these things.
Absolutely.
You can't complain about them anymore. You can't feel a victim anymore because it was a conscious decision.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm afraid to lose my job, or I can't afford to lose my job, and this person is too unpredictable, and I'm just going to ignore it and see how I can do it. So then we work on other strategies, like how do you recharge your energy? How do you protect your peace? So then I go into kind of like recovery mode because the person has already made the decision to stay in that situation. It happens with couples. I'm not a couples coach or therapist, but in coaching sessions, people talk about anything that is affecting their lives, and sometimes that includes their personal relationships. So, okay, you made the decision to stay with your spouse or partner or whatever, significant other. Cool. Now you can't say this person. No, you chose. You decided.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's the first thing. So once you notice that you're going to feel fear, you have to make a decision of what are you going to do with that fear? Because fear in itself, it's not bad. For instance, it's there to protect you, right? From things that are risky or dangerous. So what are you going to do with it? Are you going to let it stop you?
Mm-hmm.
Which is the first example that I said, no, it's going to stop me. I'm not going to have this conversation. Okay, cool. That's your decision.
Mm-hmm.
Or are you going to let it propel you forward and give you the courage
Mm-hmm.
that you need to have that conversation? Oh, I'm going to let it propel me. Okay. So prepare.
Mm-hmm.
Prepare that you're going to doubt yourself. It's like you can write your script, you can practice it, you can do, I don't know, positive self-talk, affirmations, whatever the ritual to make you feel embodied in your power.
Mm-hmm.
And 5 seconds to the moment, you're like, oh no, you don't want to jump. But in that moment, I would say, have that leap of faith. Give yourself
Mm-hmm.
that leap of faith, because what comes afterwards is going to be much more fulfilling. Our brain is wired to look for the negative. So we're always thinking, what if it goes wrong? What if she gets angry or he gets angry? Or what if the relationship is broken? What if I lose my job? What if I lose respect? What if, there's retaliation? Okay, that's a good scenario. But what if you actually teach that person something?
Yeah.
What if you make them aware of their behavior and how their behavior is impacting not only you,
But the company.
but in leaders,
Yeah.
the company,
Absolutely.
the clients,
Yeah.
right? So you may be the vessel that is going to teach that person, that is passing by to teach that person something, and you're going to give them a huge gift.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
Because that was my question also. Do manipulators know that they are manipulators actually? Do they
Most of the times
they-
they don't.
that's sad. That's so sad.
It's hard. It's hard to see them like that, but most of the times they don't know.
Ah.
Their level of self-awareness is very low. And most of the times, those manipulators or those aggressors,
Mhm.
because they can be bullies,
Yeah.
there are corporate bullies and bullies outside, or narcissistics, they have deeply wounded inner childs. They were wounded as childs. They don't know it, but they were. So they're compensating. It's a compensation strategy. And that's how they learned to be in control, because what they most want, and humans in general, we want to have control. And when we learn that we don't have it, it creates anxiety and angst, right? Anguish. But that's why we have to learn to flow with what life brings. But they don't know how to do that. They didn't learn how to do that. What I've learned is that hurt people hurt others.
Mm.
they're not spreading the joy, they're spreading the pain, but not because they're bad people. It's because it's what they learned how to do. We are all a product of our learnings. And most of our learnings happen at a very young age, between 0 and 7. And you mature some concepts until you're 10. But those first 10 years of your life are completely determinant on everything that you learned. And it's not only what you learned, is that what you learned, you think is the absolute truth. That is the reality. And there's nothing else that can go against it, because it's like a master formula, but it's not true. It's not true. So we don't have the criteria to discern if what I'm learning or what I'm being taught is good for me, or if it's real, if it's the truth. It's my truth, but I believe, we all believe that our truths are absolute truths, and that those absolute truths are the reality, but they're not.
Absolutely.
They're not.
When we speak, it's quite sad actually when you think about those people, that they are really, when you mentioned the sentence, hurt people hurt others,
Yes.
it's quite sad. But they are not aware that they are hurt, but they are inside. And probably they are also living emptier life, which they are not satisfied with or happy with. Is there any tip how to deal with those people who are complicated for the communication, because they are manipulators or aggressors because of these reasons? But how to deal with these people?
Yes. So the first thing is to understand it's not about you, it's about them. It's about their insecurity and fear. And as you mentioned, their lack of self-love and sense of self, and their level of awareness is very low. So it takes two to tango, right? It takes two to play tennis or to play. You don't have to engage in them. You can still establish boundaries. So I've had many overbearing bosses, as I said, and because I kept choosing men that resembled my father, because I had a father wound that needed to heal. So I remember one who was like very tall. He was like 6'5", and he was a very big man. He used to yell a lot. He has huge hands, and for many of the employees, it was like, just looking at him, it was like it made you afraid. So he was angry about something, and he was just calling me out on something that wasn't something that I had done, but he didn't want to listen, because he needed to find, in that moment, he needed to find a guilty person so that he could, an object of all his anger, so that he could just lash out. And I said, I remember we were both sitting, but still he was so big. So I stood up and I said, hey, this is not okay. If you want to know what happened, then listen to me. If you're not going to listen to me, I will not take responsibility for this. And he was so surprised, because I used to be like, the quiet observer. I'm an introvert, so I observe a lot and I listen, and I'm like, okay, then strategizing when's the best moment to do this or say that. But in that moment, my body just said, enough. So I stood up. I didn't even plan it. It was something, just my body pushed me to say, hey, this is not okay. This is not okay. And I will not have it. And I did break the relationship with him. I said something that he was not used to. People saying, stop. Right?
He was shocked, I believe, that he didn't expect it.
He was shocked, yes. He was very shocked. He was like, no, Lilian, calm down. I didn't mean to. And I said, I know you didn't mean to, but you do this a lot. And you know what? It's not okay. And because I care for you, because I do, I admired him. He taught me so much. He's is a very smart man intellectually, but emotionally, he was not that smart. So again, it's, and it's that moment where, that's why clarity is so important. It's like, am I willing to lose my job for this? I mean, is this so important for me that I am willing to lose my job? And all of the times that I've said yes, I've done it. And let me tell you, I've lost my job 3 times. I lost my job.
Because you stood up
But
for yourself.
I came because I stood up. I said, this is not okay. And I'm not going to do it.
Uh-huh.
Right? So
It's
yes, it's scary. Yes, of course. But I think that everything that happens that I've chosen consciously or unconsciously has made me stronger. It's made me more resilient. It's made me learn more about myself. So for me, in the end, it was difficult for some time, but it was the right thing to do.
absolutely. When I just hear you, it's so brave and also amazing. And I totally feel what you felt, because I also did similar things, that I stood for myself, and I knew it's the right decision, because dealing with people who are the same, aggressive manipulators, they don't change. And if you are willing to voluntarily to continue in this, even there is no chance to really to improve, then you are crossing your own boundaries, and you are why to do it, actually. Yeah, why to do it? We are all old enough to have healthy relationships, and much better. So
Yes, sometimes they change, but it's further down the road. I mean, for those people that I stood up to, I planted a seed. I didn't get to see it grow, but I planted a seed.
absolutely.
And I was like, I'm looking back and I'm like, yeah, and they fired me, but it's okay because I planted a seed and some people benefited from those fruits. Not me, because I got fired, but something changed in the system. So,
But
yeah.
it involved your way, the journey of you, what you are doing nowadays, that it really gave you strong power of yourself, to also the self-trust, self-belief, that you can really handle any situation with like any narcissist person or manipulator. So this is incredible. It empowered you strongly.
It's because, let me just say this, Jana, it's not about you. So once I learned that it wasn't me that was making them be like that,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't their behavior wasn't intended or directed only to me. I was allowing them. I was enabling them because I didn't set the boundary.
Yeah.
Right? But once I took the personal component out of it, like, oh, she has it in for me or he has it in for me, and they only do this to me, and I got out of that victim mode, then I could see it for what it was.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't against me. It's just, it's them. It's
Yeah.
how they are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Um. So when you speak, because when this pattern from such a complicated person, let's say, or aggressive, manipulative person on the opposite happens, um, are there any tips how to stood up for yourself, how to set up the boundaries at the beginning, not to roll it for months, to make it more difficult? Are there any tips what to say or how to say it to those people?
Yes. So you can practice. There are certain conversational methodologies that you can learn. So I usually start with saying how I'm experiencing the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, Jana, a couple days ago when we were discussing this project and you automatically designated me to be the leader or to take care of these things without validating with me first,
Uh-huh.
made me feel, I don't know, angry, frustrated, fearful, whatever it was that you felt. So validate your emotion and own it. It's like, I'm owning it. It made me feel angry or upset because you didn't confirm with me or validate with me if with my current workload, I could take care of that. I'm spread pretty thin. I don't have the bandwidth to take this on. So I would have liked for you to check with me first. So moving on forward, right now we need to decide who can take care of this because I can't. You do that separately, right? So if this happens like in a public setting, don't engage there because these people are going to get defensive and they're going to overpower you most of the time. So just wait and have the conversation. And that gives you time to soothe, right? Because you're going to get the emotion and you're going to become reactive. You want to react to it. No, don't react, respond. And in order to respond, which is, just kind of thinking things through, you need to soothe yourself, calm your nervous system and say, okay, this happened. So acknowledge it, right? This happened. He said that, or she said that, or he did that, or he did this. Okay, this happened. Okay, how do I feel? What do I want to do? And how am I going to do it? But it goes through that process, and it takes practice. Because in the beginning, we're so wired to react, right? Reaction is unconscious. It's just like instinctive behavior. I don't think about it. I just do it. Oh, I went and I punched the person. Oh, now that you think about it, maybe you wouldn't have punched the person, but that's what you did. You reacted. No, we have to respond, because that's what differentiates us from other animals, right? That's why we are rational animals. We have our prefrontal cortex to think things through. So the first thing I say, and I didn't understand it back then, but I do now, is breathe. Why? Because breathe is instant calming your nervous system. It's free. There are many breathing techniques. So breathe it out, because usually when you're under stress, your brain is oxygen deprived. So breathe, get up, walk, drink water. Water, not coffee or soda. Drink water. Your brain needs water, oxygen, and blood to function correctly. So give it those things, right? And then you can practice. There's nonviolent communication model. There's assertive communication model. It's the same thing for me. Own your feelings first, because we are emotional beings. So own your feelings, express them, and then ask for the agreement. Or establish the boundary. Say, this for me is not cool. You cannot yell at me or at anybody. I used to be in HR many years, so people were very careful what they did to me, because they knew I was the HR person. I said, it's okay. You're not yelling at me, but you're yelling. So that's a no-go. That behavior will not be tolerated in this company. Or you cannot say those words. Or, whatever the behavior was, because they used to be very guarded of what they did in front of me, but still employees would come back and say, hey, this happened. So I would have to intervene.
So you probably saw many situations with the employees.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Was there some?
And I was, back in the time when we didn't know about this, I was harassed, sexually harassed, physically harassed. I didn't know, because it was a male-dominated world, and there were many assumptions and paradigms around corporate behavior, that we didn't know. There weren't any laws about harassment or mobbing or discrimination. Legislation or regulations have come to shed some light inside a structure, but I didn't know that. So yes, I lived it at my very young career. I didn't know how to protect myself because I had no boundaries. But then when that became the moment for me to lead HR, then I had to learn about it and enforce some behaviors. Yes.
Nowadays, you are helping people, especially women, to gain their power and also clarity, and also help them in their leadership, which is really very good. And you have a great project. You are founder of Inphinite Edge and also Radical Sovereignty. So when if someone who is listening or watching today's episode would like to connect with you, are they able to? How can they do it by Instagram or the website, which I will put into the description below?
Thank you. Yes. So for my corporate job, I'm in LinkedIn, Lilian Díaz Gomez. There's my individual profile, and there's Inphinite Edge page that I am now building, because I have a very clear line of the type of leadership that I believe is the most effective in the century and moving forward. So I'm kind of establishing my own brand and my own DNA of leadership. So that's Inphinite Edge. And then for women, because in coaching and teaching women, I noticed patterns. And it was sad. It was kind of sad for me because it was like, oh my God, I used to be that woman. And I was lost and I didn't have anyone to teach me about that or tell me about it and help me, guide me to get out of that. I had to do it on my own. I did it because I burned out. I burned out in 2019, I burned out. So to heal myself, to recover myself, I started learning about all these things. So last year I said I want to do something for women who are in leadership positions, even though they may not know it, because people think that leaders are leaders of formal leaders of others, but you're a leader. If you don't have a team, you're still a leader. You're leading yourself, you're leading your family, you're leading your children, you're a leader. We're all leaders. So radical sovereignty is that answer, from women who are exhausted of holding it all together, and very disconnected from themselves, because to hold the external space, if you don't have the bandwidth, you're going to abandon yourself. So they look like they're doing fine on the outside, but on the inside, there are disfragmentation is going on. Yes.
Lilian, this is brilliant. And you mentioned that you see similar patterns by those women. What
Yes.
main patterns do you observe by them?
Yes, and it doesn't matter the nationality. Now that I've been, I'm living in Spain now, but I'm from Venezuela. I lived in Mexico, lived in the U.S., and I've coached people and trained people over 25 nationalities. So, and now I'm, learning about Europeans, and it doesn't matter, the country's history or the country's moment, if they're first world countries or third world countries, the patterns are there. And for women is that belief that, we have to hold, now that we are in the productive world, because our role has changed, right? And we play a much active role in society, that we have the obligation to hold the full weight of the world on our shoulders, which, is one thing. But when we're doing that and we're still judging ourselves, we're still feeling like imposters, we still feel like we need to be the superwoman, we don't know how to ask for help, but when we get it, we don't know how to receive it because we feel bad. There's that, inner voice saying, oh, you're failing, you're not strong, you're not good, we have that, sometimes that inner villain. And these are strong, capable, resilient, resourceful women, but they don't believe it because their self-love, their self-image, their sense of self is shattered, right? So perfectionism sometimes is at the core. So yes, there are many patterns, but all of them rooted in not knowing who they are and not valuing who they are.
And what do you recommend those women or leaders, because they can also be men, to really find out who they are, to stand up for themselves better, because then everything is set up much easier when you know who you are.
Yes. So the first thing I work with, whether it's a corporate program or it's an individual coaching program, is knowing thyself. You can't expect to know others if you don't know who you are. So I do a behavioral assessment. It's not a personality, because personality is too big, but I do a very simple, manageable, quickly learnable behavioral assessment, which is the DISC, DISC. And then you learn about your patterns and you learn about your behaviors and then by knowing yourself, then you can get to know others. But we also dive deep in things like your values. Values change over time, and we are not, I don't think many leaders know what their values are when they come to lead. So sometimes that's why I see these short circuits in organizations when people, they don't know it, but they feel that their values are being confronted or are in danger because the company's asking them to do things that they're not willing to, or they don't think it's okay. That is a first cultural shock. So I work on, what are your values? And this doesn't have to be like reflections of a year. This can be very, very quickly, but you have to know yourself. What are your boundaries? What are your non-negotiables? What are your values? What are your beliefs around yourself, work, life, the corporate world, money, health? Because our beliefs are driving us and we don't know, right? This is our subconscious mind creating our reality, but many times we don't even know why.
Yeah,
So yes, self-discovery and self-knowledge is the first step.
amazing.
Yes.
Is there any message you would like to share to people who are watching or listening to today's episode?
Yes, I think boundaries
Mhm.
are allow you to protect your sacred ground, but they are the bridges that help you connect and build more meaningful relationships. Relationships that are built on respect, that are built on uh, authenticity and genuine care for each other. When a relationship or a situation costs you your peace, it's too expensive. So I would leave with that.
Lilian,
Yes.
thank you so much for being here, for your amazing tips, for sharing also your past experience and all your valuable really tips and inspiration. Thank you very much. It was very valuable today. Thank
You're
you very
very
much.
welcome. Thank you all. Thank
Thank-
you.
Ladies and gentlemen, and I thank you for watching and following podcast Jana Talk. I am truly sure that you enjoyed today's episode and the tips and lessons from Lilian, because it was really helpful. If you know about anybody who is struggling with setting boundaries or difficult situation or dealing with manipulators, aggressive people, don't hesitate to share with them, because I believe that it will help them. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode, where we will find out more about Lilian. What does she do to prevent stress, and what does she do to feel more fulfilled in her life, and much more. Wish you a wonderful day and see you next Sunday. Bye bye.
Bye bye.